What I noticed about the layout of Where the Wild Things Are is that the illustrations that show Max in his house are small and contained within a neat square on the page, but as he transitions into his wild imaginary world, the drawings begin to grow and expand until they take up the whole spread. What I think is clever is how Max's imagined story about the monsters parallels what's just happened in his real life. Max's mother sends him to his room without supper and calls him a wild thing. In the land where the wild things are, Max is the one in control, and he sends the wild things to bed without their supper. Children can feel powerless at times, especially when they get in trouble for being loud or acting wild. I think most kids can empathize with Max, and this shows them that it's okay to be angry and it's okay to spend time alone to relieve frustration. Like Max and Where the Wild Things Are, Harry the dog runs away to find freedom, only to realize he misses his family and wants to come home to them. This story is very short, but it's sweet and funny. I think a lot of kids can relate to hating baths. Blueberries for Sal uses a lot of repetition, like the kaplink, kaplank, kaplunk of the blueberries falling into Sal's tin pail. What's also clear is the parallels between Sal and her mother and Little Bear and his mother. Both mothers are on Blueberry Hill to save up food for the winter, and both Little Sal and Little Bear can't help but just eat all the blueberries. The story has elements of cuteness, danger, and humor, so I can picture why kids and their parents would enjoy reading it together. One interesting thing about this book is it's told in second person, but the you is the mouse, so it's like the reader is speaking to the mouse in the story. The illustrations are gorgeous. I had this book as a kid and I loved just staring at the bright, juicy looking strawberry and the shiny knife. From the title, you can guess this book is adjective heavy. The sentence structure is very simple, and there are some repetitions of sounds like boom, boom, boom when the bear is coming, and sniff, sniff, sniff. I think books that focus on a healthy food like strawberries in this book, or blueberries and blueberries for Sal, are good because they'll make kids want to eat those foods. I remember as a kid we had a Barney movie and there was a song about pickles, and I don't even like pickles, but I would always want to eat pickles after I watched it. The initial conflict in Sylvester and the Magic Pebble is both humorous and high stakes. Sylvester accidentally uses his wish-granting pebble to turn him into a rock and needs to find a way to be turned back into a donkey. He can't move, he can't talk. Reading it for the first time, I was so curious as to how he was going to escape his dilemma, and when the solution came, I was satisfied and so happy that Sylvester could see his family again, and how they realized they don't need a magic pebble because I already have everything they could ever wish for. What stands out most about the snowy day is the illustrations. I believe they're collages, and the colors are spectacular, vibrant, and really stand out on the page, especially against the snow. There is no major conflict in the story, instead it highlights a kid's curiosity and the joy of exploring and experiencing the mundane. There's one spread where Peter's tracks are dragged through the snow across 2 pages, and a third track appears. Curious, we turn the page and learn that Peter found a stick to drag through the snow, and then we find out that the stick is the perfect length to disturb the snow way up in a tree. I think it's also worth noting that this book was published in 1962 and features a black main character, but is not a story about race nor is it racist, which I'm sure has made it a very special story for children throughout the years. Like A Snowy Day, the illustrations in this book seem to be collages, and the only illustrations on each page are the animals, or the humans, when we get to the end of the book. The setup of the story is very simple. The same sentence structure and rhyme is used throughout on every page. This seems to be a book for much younger kids, as it focuses on names and animals and colors. The hook that keeps kids turning the page is the fact that the next animal with an unexpected color, like a blue horse for instance, is mentioned on the page before the blue horse is shown, and kids want to see what the blue horse looks like. Stella Luna is straightforward and conveys this message in a way that is easy to understand, that we are all unique with different abilities, but can still have so much in common and still be friends with one another. The illustrations are incredibly neat and are contained within a square on one page, while the text sits on the other side. One detail that was cool was how at the end of the book there were a few pages dedicated to facts about bats. I know kids love facts about science and animals. The writing in Owl Moon does such a good job of setting the mood, even from the very first page, how she describes the windless winter evening, the still bare trees, the train whistle in the distance. Such a cool, cozy, nostalgic atmosphere. The author pays close attention to detail and imagery, using sounds like the crunch of snow, sights like footprints and shadows, and sensations like the nipping cold to plant the reader in the scene. I've never been owling, but I know what it's like to recall memories of spending time with relatives back when life was simpler, and this book takes me to those places. I was not expecting to cry when I read The Giving Tree, but I will admit I did tear up. The story is incredibly short, but at the same time manages to have a lot of layers and is filled with quite a bit of emotion. During the first read-through, it seemed clear the book was about how parents will give everything they have to make their child happy. I was angry at the boy for not appreciating what the tree was doing for him. The second time reading it, I was almost mad at the tree for destroying itself for the boy. Then I realized what yanked my emotions the hardest was how we saw the boy grow up in age into an old man in 30 short pages. We saw his whole life flash before us, and in that time the tree never stopped loving him, even though the boy was no longer who he used to be. And even though the tree was tearing itself apart for the boy, it was still happy. She didn't do it because she had to, but because she loved nothing more than giving the boy what made him happy, without expecting anything in return. I think it's brilliant how Shel Silverstein managed to pack these emotionally charged ideas into such a short book with such a simple format.